Jeans are the one wardrobe staple everyone says you need, but no one tells you how to actually find a pair that fits right, makes your butt look good, and lasts a long time without breaking the bank. No wonder it feels so intimidating. So I decided to test 3 different jeans from the most popular denim brands to see if there's any difference, and I'll be working my way up in price, starting with these $50 jeans from Uniqlo. Okay, so these are the Uniqlo straight jeans. And coming in at $50 US or around $60 Canadian, these look pretty good. So right off the bat, this denim feels pretty soft. It is a little bit rough in texture. It has a zipper fly, works pretty well. It is a YKK branded zipper, which actually is a good sign of quality. And this is actually the J.W. Anderson times Uniqlo collab, so I'm not sure if these are limited edition, but they seem like a pretty standard straight leg blue pair of jeans. It does have some branding on the buttons that says JWA. They look quite nice. The stitching looks great, very even, very clean. One thing I do notice here is that these jeans do not have rivets anywhere. So that's kind of a detail that they did definitely save some money on. Let's check the inside stitching. So these have like your standard modern denim finishing. These are not selvage, which doesn't necessarily mean bad quality. It just means that they can make them faster. And it does have some other really nice little touches and details like this JWA logo that looks like it's been laser printed in. You know, if this is what the $50 jeans are like, I'm really curious to see about the $300 ones. But before we get into that, let's talk about what you actually should be looking for in a good quality pair of jeans. After doing a whole bunch of Googling, spending hours on YouTube, and asking my boyfriend, who's kind of a selvage denim head, I narrowed it down to 4 general things to look for. Number 1 being fabric. The best denim is going to be made of 100% cotton because it's considered to be more durable and less likely to lose its shape over time compared to denim blended with things like elastane. But I will note that this can be a bit more of a personal preference thing. So if you want your jeans to have a bit more give to them and be a little more form-fitting, then I would say look for jeans that have a maximum of 1 to 2% elastane in there. Any more stretch than that, then we're just getting into jeggings territory and it's not going to hold its shape over time. Number 2 is weight. In general, the trend seems to be that the heavier the denim, the more premium it tends to be, with the exception of summer denim, which is meant to be more lightweight, but you get the idea. And this is actually a selling point for a lot of brands. They want you to know this information, so next time you're shopping for jeans, check and see in the description what the weight is. It might be 14 ounces, 16 ounces, or you can ask the store. Number 3 is to check the hardware and details. When it comes to high quality jeans, it really is all in the details, because the more details you have, the more money it costs to add. So look for things like button flies, which are actually more expensive to make than zipper flies, branded buttons, rivets, and leather back patches. And if your jeans do have a zipper fly, make sure the zipper feels robust, zips up and down without snagging, and you can look for reputable brands like YKK or SBS. And finally, look at the stitching. Look for clean and uniform stitching across your jeans, as opposed to starts and stops, bunching, overlaying, and messy lines. You also want to make sure that you don't see any loose threads, and another great tip is to count the stitches per inch. In general, the more stitches per inch, the better the construction of the jeans. And I learned that that is just the tip of the iceberg. We can get into so much more when it comes to what to look for in jeans, but for the purposes of this video, I think that's a great place to start next time you're out shopping for jeans. And now that we know what to look for, let's see if the $100 pair has any of these details. Okay, so these are the 501 90s jeans from Levi's. These are going to set you back $98 US or around 120 Canadian. So I'd say they're fairly mid-range in price, and these are modeled after the classic vintage Levi's 501 that kind of put Levi's on the map. So if anything, the 501s are probably your gold standard when it comes to especially straight leg jeans. So on first impressions, these feel quite a bit softer than the Uniqlo ones. The Uniqlos were soft, but they had just a bit more of a rough texture to them. These just have a really nice soft hand feel. There is no roughness at all. So if you're looking for Levi's yourself, you'll always know you have a 501 based on the button fly. These jeans have 4 buttons on the fly, and they all have the Levi's branding on them, and the buttons feel pretty good. They're pretty substantial. Another detail that I'm noticing right off the bat that these jeans have that Uniqlo did not is rivets. So I'm pretty sure that Levi's is the one who started putting rivets on jeans. They look good, and they also just add to the durability of the denim itself. The stitching looks really neat and clean. There's no loose threads that I'm seeing. Everything is really straight. And these jeans have the iconic Levi's back patch and their iconic red tab, which all just costs a little bit extra to do, you know? These are also 100% cotton, so they're going to be non-stretch, and they're made in Cambodia. All right, let's get into the final pair of jeans. These go for around $350 Canadian or around $220 USD. These are the A Goldie 90s jeans. At this price point, I have really high hopes. My first impression is that these jeans are incredibly soft. They definitely feel the softest out of all of the jeans. They also feel a bit more lightweight. They do kind of have a bit more of a thinner hand feel to them, but not necessarily a bad thing. That could just be the style. It's made of 100% organic cotton. So these are the only jeans out of the three that are made of organic cotton specifically. They're a very similar wash compared to the Levi's. And the one thing I will notice is that there's quite a bit more distressing around the pockets, around the bottom edge of the jeans, which I think seems to be more of a design choice rather than a flaw. There are 5 button closure. The buttons all have the A Goldie branding on them, and these jeans do have rivets to them. I'm a little concerned because these say that they are mid-rise, but on the website it says that their rise is 12 inches. That's pretty high. I don't know. I feel like these are going to be more of a high-rise than a mid-rise fit, but we'll see when we try it on. And just looking at the stitching, it's very, very clean. I think these have the most stitching out of all of them, so let's check the stitches per inch. I think there's 10. Hold on. So the stitching on these is quite tight, coming in at 9 stitches per inch. So I'd say that's pretty premium. All right. So that's the first impression. Let's go try these jeans on. Okay, wow, these fit pretty perfectly. These are the Uniqlo ones. These are way better than I thought they would be. I'm really impressed. So what I really like about these is they fit pretty perfect. This is my true size. I'm a size 25, 26. I went with a size 25 for a more kind of snug to the body classic fit. I really like the wash. Zipper's good, easy to get up and down, buttoned up really well. I think the booty looks good. They don't feel uncomfortable. They feel like they will give out just a little bit, so I'm curious to see what they feel like after washing. These to me are like your perfect classic pair of blue jeans. They dress up, they dress down. I'm impressed. Okay, these are the Levi's. Button fly is always a little bit more challenging to do up, but I'm partial to a button fly. I like a button fly. These, wow. These are good too. I really like these. These I had to go up a size in. They're a size 26 and they fit pretty perfectly. They fit snug. I think doing great things for the booty. They feel a bit more snug around the hip and the waist compared to the Uniqlo, which I did get in a size 25. So in the Uniqlo, I would say get your true size, but in the Levi's, you might want to size up 1. Even though I really like these jeans, I think they are very flattering, comfortable, soft. I do feel like they're doing a little bit more for the booty than the Uniqlo ones, but these don't necessarily feel more premium to me, if that makes sense. They have a little bit more premium features like the rivets, the button fly, the branding, the back patch here. But I feel like that could also be kind of down to personal preference too. And the interesting thing that Levi says about these jeans is that they're basically like getting a vintage 501 without the rummaging. I find that very interesting. I happen to be a vintage Levi 501 collector. So you know what? I want to see if there's any difference. Okay, now we're going on a little bit of a side quest here. All right, here we have 3 pairs of Levi 501s. So the main difference I can see between these two right away is the back patch. The modern one feels more leathery, although I feel like this is more of a plant-based leather, more of a synthetic type of leather. Levi's is known to use a plant-based leather called Mirum, so I feel like that's what this is. Whereas this back patch from the 1990s is made of more of a cardboard material called Jacron. Another main difference is the one from the 90s has a back patch that says made in USA. Doesn't necessarily mean better quality, but it does represent a shift in Levi's manufacturing. So let's see if they look any different. Here I got a pair of 1990s Levi 501s. They do not have the back patch, but the reason I know they're a 501 is because of the button fly. One major difference I can see right away is that these modern Levi's have 4 buttons, whereas these ones have 5. Other than that though, I'd say the fit is very similar. These have a really great structure. They're much softer and they have a lot more distressing, but that's because these have been worn and washed for decades at this point. Booty looks good. It feels the same. The stitching on these feel fantastic. I'm going to check the stitches per inch. So very interesting. The modern Levi's have 7 stitches per inch, while my vintage ones have 9. So it might be just a slight cut corner there. I also checked my other vintage pair. These also have 9 stitches per inch. So based on that and the fact that these jeans have already lasted 30 years, I already know that these are probably made at a higher quality than the modern ones. But if you're just looking for things like fit and feel and it's still made with decent construction, you know what? These Levi's, they do the job. I don't know about these. So these are the A Goldie mid-rise 90s loose jeans. Mid-rise might be a bit of a stretch. These are definitely high-rise. My belly button is here. These are very comfortable though. They're extremely soft. They feel really luxe. They do feel like they feel really nice. They feel very premium on. I just don't know if the fit is the most flattering on me, to be honest. Like I'd want them to sit just a little bit lower. Like I'd want them to be like kind of right there on me, but then it does this weird little crotch situation. And you know what? I'm not sure if it does much for the booty. It kind of flattens it out a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about these. All right, so next comes the true test, washing. Now, I know most denim purists say that you should wash your jeans as little as possible, and Levi's even says directly on their website to wash your jeans after every 10 wears. But I often find the true test of quality of a garment comes after you wash it, so I'm gonna put these to the test. I washed all the denim together, inside out, and on a cold cycle. I actually almost never use my dryer, but the care instructions said that I could, so I dried them on medium heat. And once they were dry and ready to go, I remeasured them. Uniqlo lost 1.5 inches overall, Levi's 2.5 inches, and a Goldie shrunk the most, losing 3 inches overall. And now for the final verdict. After testing these jeans on price, fit, construction, and shrinkage, I was pretty surprised. And as a vintage denim collector myself, I thought for sure I would just go into denim snob territory and just stick to that. But if you don't have access to search for a vintage pair, or you're just looking to buy brand new, honestly, all three of these were really great. And before we get into the ranking, there are some other things that I learned that probably play a factor in the quality and the price of these jeans. One being the brand itself. Brands like Uniqlo and Levi's have the size and the spending power to produce products at a pretty high volume, which does lower the cost. So they can afford to price their denim a little bit lower compared to smaller brands like a Goldie. And when it comes to comparing Levi's versus Uniqlo, I think with Levi's, you're also just paying for the name brand there too. You're paying for the heritage of the brand, the history, and that really big Levi's marketing budget. And the other factor I think is production. When I was researching all these jeans, I actually learned that a Goldie owns most of their production facilities, and they keep them localized to Los Angeles and Turkey. So this also can play a huge factor into the price point of their denim and why it's a bit more expensive, because they're potentially not outsourcing their labor as much as Uniqlo and Levi's might be. That's not to say that any garment worker is more or less skilled in any country, but the reality is the cost of that labor is different. So with all that said, and after all the tests, let's get into the verdict. I'm gonna rank my favorites from lowest to highest, which is gonna be a Goldie in third place, Levi's for second, which means that Uniqlo is my top. So I love a Goldie jeans and I actually own a few pairs already, but to be quite honest, I don't see a huge jump compared to the Levi's or the Uniqlo. And just in terms of overall fit and style, I actually found these the least flattering on my body type. But I will say that if you like the idea of buying from a smaller, more slow fashion-based company and you want a pair of 100% cotton jeans that feel amazing and so soft right out of the box, then honestly, I think you're really gonna love a Goldie and I think it is worth the money. The Levi's were good. Honestly, I can't fault these. There's nothing wrong with them. I think they're great. And honestly, if I had a blindfold on, I really couldn't tell the difference in fit compared to my vintage denim versus these ones, except for the back patch. So I do think these are priced well. I think they're worth the money. There's a lot of really nice details that the Uniqlo ones don't have. And if you are looking for that vintage denim look and feel, then you really do get them in these jeans. And Uniqlo, you know what, honestly, I was impressed. Although they did have a lot fewer details compared to the Levi's and the Goldie, the stitching is solid, the fit is great, and for the price, you really can't beat it. So if you are on a budget, I really don't think you're going to be compromising on style or quality here. Plus, I really felt like they did make my butt look good. So now you know exactly what to look for in a quality pair of jeans and what's worth the money. And if you want to know the best t-shirt to go with those jeans, I tested 8 of the most popular brands in this video right here. So watch that next to find out. Thanks for watching. Bye!